Today is a webinar where we have some really cool announcements, some really cool stuff to show. We're really excited about this. This has been in the making for a while actually, and so this webinar is all about unlocking the power for free, how trying out DESelect Segment can transform your marketing cloud. And I'm Anthony. I'm the CEO and co-founder of DESelect, and today I'm joined by Eduardo. If you would like to intro yourself.
Yeah, hello everyone. I'm Eduardo. I'm the head of customer success here at DESelect.
Awesome. I mean that let's get cranking. So on today's agenda, we'll do a very quick intro just for those who don't know yet who we are. Um, but I think a big part of our audience will already be very familiar with who we are. So we'll keep it short. Then we'll talk a little bit about smart segmentation and how your campaigns deserve better. So how we're going to do that. Then we'll talk a little bit about customer success. So it's a great thing we have Eduardo here with us today. And we'll talk about stories from Home Chef, Camping World, and also National Kidney Foundation. And seeing we already had someone from nonprofit in the chat, I think that is very apt. Then four, we'll have demo time. So Eduardo will give you a live demo, which will be a true treat. And even more than that, we'll be here as your live support. So you get DESelect CEO and head of customer success while we're doing an installation. And anyone who wants to try the installation at the time will be able to do that. So stick around till the end if you want to get some live support, want to get hands-on and just try out things. And of course, we'll provide some time and space there too for Q&A. So, quick background on who we are. So, first of all, our mission is to enable organizations around the world so that they can truly connect with people. We're very passionate about that. And we believe our marketing optimization platform is what helps organizations do this. So, think of our MOP essentially as the mission control center for teams to help them optimize their marketing. And then there's a number of use cases that we're known for. Obviously, the most well-known thing that we solve for is segmentation. That's also the topic of today's webinar, but it's not the only thing we do. We also have a great solution for send frequency optimization, specifically built for Marketing Cloud. It's called DESelect Engage, so check it out. And we also have a search app, which is wildly popular in the Marketing Cloud community. You have thousands of users. Both these things you can find on App Exchange. And a further overview. So I already mentioned App Exchange. What I didn't mention is that most of our solutions are turnkey. So you can just get started with them by yourself. Time to value is very high on our platform. And our typical customers are mid-market and enterprise across a number of industries. We already mentioned our offices. I'm based in Austin today, and Eduardo is based in Antwerp today. And we partner obviously with Salesforce, but we've also been teaming up with some of the largest SIs in the world, as well as more boutique consulting firms and agencies. And we have a number of truly fantastic clients that we're really happy with. And we also have taken the 1% pledge. So quick overview of our platform. So Segment, what we're going to be looking at today, allows you to segment with clicks, but also has more advanced use cases such as custom calculations and deduplication. Engage then, which is our send frequency optimization solution, it does a little bit more than that too. Like it allows you actually to define engagement rules so you can control how many communications go to specific people. And these rules can go very granular. On top of that, it will allow you to optimize frequency and prioritize campaigns. And then lastly, we got search. Very simple. There's a search bar that we provide directly inside of Marketing Cloud, and it's free, it's instant to use, and it makes your life so much easier. Frankly, I wish I had this when I was still consulting in Marketing Cloud myself. I see, Edu, you're smiling. I think
Yeah,
similar
same feeling here.
experience. Great. So we'll do a quick poll here, and I think if all goes well, Edu will be able to pull up the actual poll soon. But meanwhile, our question to you today is, what is your biggest challenge in Marketing Cloud? And you should be seeing the options right now. So we'll give everyone a second to answer. And
I see some answers coming in.
great.
Okay, we have 5 answers so far. Don't be shy. You can select the one, the the most problematic one, let's say. We're going to
Yeah, that's
discuss
maybe a
them in
thing. Maybe
detail.
some people don't know what to choose. Maybe some people are having multiple challenges
Multiple.
here.
Hmm. There's a clear winner for now. I will get
Great.
more answers.
All right, Edu, who do you think is the quote unquote winner of this poll?
I'm seeing the answers. But yeah, I think sometimes it's a combination of all of the options we have here. So need for SQL that obviously reduce the capacity to empower non-technical users. When you have multiple teams involved, it can be very time consuming. Um, so yeah, I wonder if people only have one issue or if it's a combination.
Mhm.
Um,
Great. Then I'll close a poll here. Then I think now people should be able to see the results too.
mhm,
Um, and then meanwhile, I'll jump to the next slide. Can you talk a bit more to these problems that we customers typically see have?
mhm. Yeah, I think the number one option in the previous poll was the inability to empower non-technical marketeers. So I think that it's connected with the first problem that we see here, right? Building segment takes too long because you have to involve multiple teams. You have to involve IT or someone from the data team to help understand what's the data source that should be used or even build a segment altogether. Um, that means that yeah, of course, marketing cannot launch it on their own. So you need to wait on other team priorities and other dependencies, right? And the problem with that is that segments take too long. Campaigns are normally or sometimes not optimized for the ROI marketing needs because they cannot really play around with the segmentations. They have to, yeah, ask IT and hope for the best. So yeah, definitely campaigns deserve better.
Thank you. And this is, of course, where we've introduced Segment. And Segment itself has been a while, for a minute now. And essentially, it allows Marketing Cloud customers to do smart segmentation. It is a way to do no code audience segmentation, and it's fully integrated with Marketing Cloud. And what that exactly means, you'll see in a second. But the gist of it is that it's in the same interface, and all the output of your segments is directly accessible in Marketing Cloud as well. Um, Lastly, it's also a plug and play setup, which you'll be able to find out if you stick around until the end. And here's some research that we've done and we've seen with customers where marketers, excuse me, Marketing Cloud users who use out of the box features, especially when they're using things like SQL or maybe for heavier data loads, they have to rely on an FTP process. They tend to spend a lot of time managing data in Marketing Cloud. And it's not only just having to write a SQL, having to build a filter, because while these things are time consuming, it's not all to it. It can also be things like creating the data extensions, the somewhat limited error handling capability in Marketing Cloud. So when we assess this, we really make sure we audit all the activities and related activities that goes into managing data and building segments. What we have seen is that by eliminating the dependency in IT and also just having a tool that's much easier, people can really save significant amounts of time. So, Edu, we have you on the call here. You are head of our customer success. So, you interact with tons of our customers. So, can you tell a little
Mhm.
bit about what you have seen and how this relates to the day to day of our customers?
Hmm. And I actually really like what you said about SQL because sometimes we only talk about SQL, right? So it looks like it's DESelect Segment or SQL, but it's actually the process of building SQL in Marketing Cloud that sometimes has some inefficiencies. The fact that you have to build an automation, a data extension, the SQL query itself, and everything's managed from different places. That drags a lot of inefficiencies that the team has to deal with on a daily basis. And the time you spend on doing those tasks is time you don't spend somewhere else. And having your data experts struggle with these things that are just, tasks that are not adding any value for your business
Mhm.
is definitely something that is not optimal.
For sure. And I'm
Hmm.
glad you pointed out the process because I also want to share this with our audience today. So on this slide, it's a story about campaign velocity. i.e., how fast you can get a campaign out of the door. So let's start with the bottom, actually. At the bottom, you can see a typical SQL-driven process where there will be some interaction between a marketing team and tech support, let's say, but these are just labels. There are many names, and sometimes it's a third party, like a consultant. Sometimes it's an internal service. Sometimes it might be a technical team member if you're lucky and you have that person in your team. But whenever the case may be, there's usually a process where you need to brief that person. But especially if it's an IT team or a separate technical team, what that means is that essentially you're filing a request, maybe it's even a ticket, and that team is probably working on a different sprint. So one thing I will never forget, I heard a customer say was something like, they always tell us it will be done in the next sprint, right? Because these guys get a lot of requests from different angles. So there's that waiting time. It is really important. I want to really stress that waiting time because that's the kind of thing that guys goes unnoticed, but that's what's going to really bump that campaign velocity time and just extend it. Anywho, at some point that person goes to writing a query. That might take a bit of time in itself. Then that goes back to the marketing person who meanwhile is also working on other stuff. So again, waiting time. There's some review. There might be an emergency meeting. Meanwhile, the deadline is getting closer. The query needs to be adjusted, and then the manager comes in, and there needs to be another personalization field, and so and so. It becomes a very stressful process. I've seen this myself when I was supporting marketing teams with their campaigns, and we had to write queries. It was very stressful. I remember Friday evenings sticking late, trying to figure out the data model and working with marketing to get the query done. So that's how a typical SQL process looks like. But Edu, maybe you can talk to how it could look like with DESelect.
Yeah, so when you talk with DESelect, normally all that tech support that you we normally see on a campaign by campaign basis is something you can do more maybe at the beginning of the setup. So you can set up some well, not automations, but some templates, some things like that that can help a non-technical user use DESelect. Of course, the fact that DESelect is drag and drop make it much easier to understand for a non-technical user. And then when you have to create your campaign, it just depends on the marketing team, right? So having less stakeholders needing to be involved and aligned on what needs to be done helps the marketing team generates those selections on their own faster and also iterate, because sometimes you create a selection, you launch the campaign, and then based on the learnings from that campaign, you change the requirements for other campaigns that are coming up, right? So the
Mhm.
fact that you can easily iterate and you don't depend on anyone else really makes things easier internally, but also better for your customers.
Fantastic. And I think this really summarizes very well some of the value a good segmentation solution can bring. Can you speak a bit to this, Edu?
Um, yeah, so basically the idea here is that um, when you work with a solution like Marketing Cloud, um, you really need to focus on what matters. And again, having to deal with the inefficiencies of the process of building a campaign. We saw it in the previous slide. Writing the SQL was just a small box in a very long process, right? It's hard to focus on that because there are a lot of inefficiencies that you need to tackle. And yeah, here, if you optimize the technology you're working with, it means, again, your team will spend more time on the things that really matter and the things that drive ROI for your company.
Absolutely. And what really stands out to me is that even though we're talking about something very operational where the end users are involved, this hasn't gone off the radar for people as high as CMOs, all of the way in the marketing organization, as you can see here by this quote from Gartner, who's done this kind of research. So I think it's just really interesting that this is a very pervasive problem in the industry. Um, Now, I want to also immediately address some other things that come up when people start thinking about app exchange, though, and that has to do with security, data privacy, because of course we are talking about segmentation, we are talking about data. So I want to just highlight this already for customers who want to think about using DESelect Segment free. Is that we are fully ISO 2701, compliant. We're also compliant with CCPA, GPR, and I think that's also worthwhile seeing is that because we're on App Exchange, we had to go through a Salesforce security review. In fact, we've gone to multiple since we have multiple applications and we've released some major updates over the years. And I'm still very proud to say that one thing our Salesforce Partner Manager once told us that it's exceptional that a partner always passes the security test on the first go. So I think we can be rightfully very proud of this. Um, Another question that customers will ask us, especially these days, is like, okay, but what about Data Cloud? Doesn't Data Cloud do segmentation? And the answer is yes, of course it does. And Data Cloud is a great platform to unify your data and fuel some of your other Salesforce applications. But we have seen with various customers that there are some limitations to this. And sometimes they are pricing related because Data Cloud has a consumption-based pricing model, which means if you're going to be segmenting a lot, that's going to drive up the price. So when IT finds out that their data cloud is consumption based, they typically don't get very excited about marketers using the platform because of course marketers want to experiment with it, and that's not ideal. The other thing is that data cloud typically gets sold to the CIO, not the CMO. So the typical user is still a bit more technical than someone who will be using Marketing Cloud. We've done a great webinar on this. We've written a lot about this, but since we have you on the call, Edu, can you talk a little bit to how you have seen this pan out with our customers?
Yeah, I think you really give a couple of very important details here. And what we've seen customers doing with Data Cloud and DESelect is that you can very easily split the tasks of what needs to be done for a campaign. So Data Cloud is great for getting data together and building some master segments. That's something that the data team can do because there are multiple sources involved. As you said, it's very technical. Sometimes it's hard to connect all the different silos that you might have. And with those master segments built, you can push that into Marketing Cloud, and that can be the starting point for marketeers. So that makes things easier, of course, for marketing because they have less tables they have to work with. It's probably optimized for them. But it also makes more sense in terms of cost because you optimize the credits you expend in Data Cloud. As you said, it's consumption based. So you limit the credits you consume to building those master segments, and then you let marketing play around in a place where they are already used to work, right? Like Marketing Cloud and DESelect, and they can do that in Salesforce Marketing Cloud with DESelect Segment.
Sure. Thank you, Eduardo. I think here's a great example too of a customer that's happily using these like segments.
Yeah, we had this great success story with Brad from Camping World. I think here it's a great example of what we were talking before about velocity and involving less teams to optimize the overall process. You can see how they reduce the campaign planning from 3 to 14 days to less than 24 hours. They were also able to automate most of their selections because what we've seen, and I'm pretty sure some people in this call have the same, you have some recurring campaigns, right? Like newsletters or monthly emails or things like that, that you can easily automate instead of having to build it every time or instead of having to raise a different ticket for every newsletter. If you create a selection, you're happy with that segmentation, you can automate that and think about something else. So yeah, it was a great success story. Very happy with what Camping World is doing with DESelect Segment.
Couldn't agree more. And also had the pleasure of being on stage at Salesforce Connections with Brad, who brought the story alive there. So it's fantastic. Another customer that we're very proud of, especially for the results we've been able to help them achieve, is Home Chef. So Home Chef, very well-known food delivery service. What they've been doing is using their segment to really actually generate a lift in revenue per customer. So by being just way more targeted, way more specific, they actually saw more revenue per customer, which is I think is an awesome result. In fact, this customer success story was directly responsible for us getting the Salesforce Innovation Award earlier this year. So proud in many ways. They've been doing daily segmentation of 5 million records by their non-technical marketers, where before they were very technically dependent. Yeah, another great success story. I'll pass the ball back to you, Eduardo.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and I'm actually very happy about this one with the National Kidney Foundation and Sarah's team, because I think as I said before, we often talk about SQL, right, and reducing the need of SQL for non-technical teams. But I also like the angle of this success story where National Kidney Foundation were able to increase their personalization efforts by reducing the need of AMP script. So AMP is another very technical knowledge used in campaigns to, personalize the content, as you might know. And using DESelect segment can reduce the need for very hard and complex AMP statements. And that's exactly what National Kidney Foundation is doing. And yeah, I think it's another great example of one of those hidden values that you can get with DESelect.
It's great.
All right. Time for a short demo?
Absolutely. Let's do it. I'll stop sharing my screen. I'll pass it to you, Eduardo.
Okay, awesome. So today I'm going to show how to build a very simple selection using DESelect segment. You can see my screen, right?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So here we're in DESelect segment inside Marketing Cloud. If you don't have DESelect segment, it's fully integrated in Marketing Cloud. So here, if you go to Marketing Cloud and you hover over the App Exchange, you would have DESelect segment right here. So you don't need a different login, or you don't need to go anywhere else. It's just where you normally work. And here, what I'm going to do is just create a campaign, for example, sorry, a segment to send an email for the campaign members of a given campaign, right? So what I'm going to do is first create a new selection. So I click here on create new. I'm going to give it a name. And once I click save, I will be redirected to the screen where I can create my selection. Now, in this example, we're going to build it from scratch, but what you will see is that after some time of building your campaigns, you will have some selections already built and you can copy paste, which is super fast. And you can start from something that you did previously. But today, let's show how to do it from scratch. So here, when I'm building a campaign or a selection, the first thing I have to do is select the data sources. So basically the data extensions I want to use to work. And here I'm going to select the data extension where I have all my contacts. So I come here under available data extensions, and I can just look for one data extension. In my case, it's called DE_contacts. And when I find it, I can just drag and drop it to the selected data sources, right? So let's do that. Click save here. You can see that all along while I use the product, I have a lot of tips showing what needs to be done. So that also helps first-time users and non-technical users understand what needs to be done. But in this case, yeah, I just need this data extension, the data extension of contacts. So once I'm happy with this, I can go down here and click on filters. And this is where the magic happens, right? Here you can start adding all the filters that you need for your segment. Because I selected the contact data extension, I'm able to filter on any field from this data extension. I'm going to keep it simple. So let's say consent equals to true and email address is not empty. So I just drag and drop email address and say here is not empty, right? You have a lot of different filter options depending on the field that you select. And you also see that down here we have related records. This means that I connected some data extensions that I normally use. So for example, I connected the send data view, the loyalty table, other information I have included the campaign member. So if I want to do filters over contacts and other data extensions, I can easily do it by drag and dropping the data extension I want, in my case, campaign member, into the filter section. And it's going to build something like this. Give me contacts that have at least one campaign member, right? So that would be an inclusion. You can also do quite straightforward exclusions with this. If I change this at least for a no, for example, so you can exclude people from a campaign or people from a send or people that didn't open an email or things like that. But for now, I'm going to keep it with at least one. And then if I click on this funnel icon, I'll be able to segment even further the campaign members I'm interested in. So I'm going to click here. I will see the fields from campaign member, and I can say, okay, I'm just interested in campaign members with campaign 2, for example. Click save. Now I'm ready to go, right? I prepared my filters. I selected the data extension I needed. I added all the filters I want to apply. So the next step would be to define the output. So the output is where do you want to store the results? Now, if you're normally segmenting in SQL, you have to go to a different place. You have to go to Email Studio, right, to build your data extension. But with DESelect segment, we try to centralize everything in one place. So you don't need to leave DESelect, and we take care of everything else. So from here, I would be able to create a data extension from scratch. When I do this, you just copy the name of the selection into the name. I'm going to keep that. And then I'm going to make it sendable because I'm going to use this for an email send I have later this week. And when I click on continue, I can easily start adding fields to this data extension that I just created. So I can add, for example, the contact ID, I can add the email address and the first name, because that's what I'm going to use for personalization.
Edu, we have a question in the chat that might be good
Mm-hmm.
to address right now. So Tom is asking, where did you access the DESelect segment screen that you're on? Can you shed some light on that?
Sure, great question. So here, if you log in DESelect, there's a section, sorry, in Marketing Cloud, there's a section called App Exchange. And down here, you can see all the apps you downloaded from the App Exchange. So here, when you install DESelect Segment 3 or DESelect Segment in general, you will see DESelect Segment as an option. And when you click on it, you're redirected to this UI.
And needless to say, but for this, you need to install it from the App Exchange. We'll show that later as well. And
Mm-hmm.
anyone who likes to try it on the spot, if you have your Marketing Cloud org in handy, or maybe have a demo account in case of a partner, you can stick around to try that, or you can even just try it right now. If you have any questions later, we'll be happy to give you some live support. And I see
Mm-hmm.
Tom is writing, got it, thanks. So you're welcome, Tom.
Yeah, thank you for the question, Tom. Great. So here, as I was saying, you can add as many fields as you need. In the previous step, I didn't show it because I don't want to make the demo too complex, but you can also combine different data extensions. So here you will be able to add fields from different data extensions as well. And that's very handy for personalizations if you need to. So once I'm happy with the structure of my data extension, you can see I didn't provide the name of the fields of the new data extension. I didn't provide the field types. I didn't provide if they are primary keys or not. And that's because DESelect is doing all hard work for me. Basically, it's copying the same settings that I have from the fields I'm selecting. So I don't even have to think about that anymore. And when I click on Save Data Extension, it's going to create the data extension for me in the in Email Studio in the Salesforce Marketing Cloud environment. So again, you don't need to leave DESelect segment. From here, you will also be able to check the data extension that was created, but I don't need to do that right now. So I will move on to the next step. That would be a preview. So a preview, as it says in this tip, and I really like that, it's a safe place. Basically, what we're going to do is try to get the results for the filter that we have just created. You can see here Didi chilling. Maybe it's a bit too cold to be in the beach now, at least in this side of the world. But here, what you will see is that DESelect generates the SQL query for you. So what DESelect segment does is, based on everything that we selected before, it's going to generate a SQL query that you can actually access from this screen if you're technical or if you're trying to learn. We've had some feedback from customers that are trying to learn SQL using this. So you're welcome to see the SQL that is used there. And then as soon as the query finishes, you will be able to see the results. In this case, it's a demo environment, so we only have 2 records, but you will be able to see this preview of the different records that were generated. I see there's a question about, is DESelect able to fetch values from pick list fields when adding the criteria? The answer is yes. That's one of the features that we have. You can create pick list over fields, and it will display all the available values for that field. It's part of one of our paid editions, but yeah, we do have that that feature. Orlando, thank you for the question. All right, so here I did the preview. I can see if I was expecting 2 records or more, I don't know. And once I'm happy with the results, well, I can either go back, as you can see, and continue changing my selection and go back to the preview. Is a back and forth process. It's very useful because, again, you don't need to leave DESelect. You can run the preview, see if the records match what you expect. If they don't, you can go back, change a couple things, run it again, wait and see the results. And once you are done with that and you're happy with the results you're getting, then you can just run your selection. And in that case, what DESelect will do is start processing this selection that we have just created. Let me actually move it to the right folder. And here you can see that status is running. And once it's done, I will be able to see the number of records that I got from this selection. And the data extension will be ready to use in any campaign. So if you want to connect it to a journey or a single send, then you can use this data extension wherever you need in Marketing Cloud.
All right, awesome. If anyone still has questions, feel free to add them. Meanwhile, I'll go back to the slides once you start. Stop screen share. Yeah, there we go.
Mhm.
Okay, just a few more things. So first off, what do other people say about it? So here you can read a few of the many great reviews that we have on App Exchange. Is there some kind of feedback that you you really appreciate, Eduardo?
Well, I actually love the review from Andrea saying, "Now I'm a genius." I really like that customers feel that way. I really think the great thing about DESelect is that it empowers marketeers. So yeah, I mean, in many of these reviews, you can see that they also mention the support because um, how we understand customer success is that we're here for our customers. So if they have any issue, they have any question, we're here to help. Actually, when you get DESelect Segment 3, you have access to chatbot and some chat support if needed, if you have any questions. Also, even if before the installation you have any issue, you can reach out to us and we'll be happy to help. Um, so yeah, very proud of these reviews.
Yeah, I really like how some customers will say that we help their non-technical marketers become data experts. I think that's the most profound but least obvious thing about the DESelect platform, where you would expect that, okay, that even the technical marketers can now segment faster because they don't have to write SQL. They can just drag and drop and it's more reusable, less bug prone and all that good stuff. Now you also have non-technical marketers who don't have to ask IT or anyone technical to create the queries for them. But as a side effect, as I get more hands on, suddenly data is no longer scary and they actually start to understand what's in their database. And honestly, like, how can you do really great marketing if you don't know what data you have accessible? Because so much personalization and targeting is just really driven by it. So being familiar with your data will make you a better marketer. And that's why I'm actually really proud of that we have accomplished that and the very frequent feedback on good customer support. I think that is definitely one thing that we value highly. Anywho, as I started this presentation, I have said that we would show you how you can actually install this. This will be a shorter demo because it's not a very arduous long process, but we would encourage anyone on the call today, try it. So you can either navigate directly to App Exchange. There's also a QR code here for those who are thus inclined, but I can see that Didi, aka Teresa, has shared the link in the chat meanwhile. So feel free to follow that and try to click that Get It Now button. And meanwhile, just so you know, what are the limitations here? Because yes, it is a free edition. We have paid versions that go even way beyond to what we show today. But even what we show today, really profound. You're no longer going to be dependent on SQL to create joins. Your filtering is going to be more advanced and so on. And especially for any customer that has a data model coming in from, say, Sales Cloud or Service Cloud. So with many data extensions, with some relation between, this is going to be really, really useful. So with DESelect Segment free, which you can get off App Exchange, you can create up to 10 selections monthly per BU, and you can have up to 2 active BUs. And then we also have, I believe, a limit of 5 users. I want to say 3 users. I'm looking at Eduardo here.
Hmm. Yes, 3 users.
3 users, yes. And but beyond those limits, you can use it eternally. You can keep using it. If you never hit those limits, that's great. Then good for you. Keep using the product, spread the word, and you can do unlimited joins, unlimited filters, and unlimited previews. So I see we have some questions, but unless you want to jump on any of those, Edu, I will jump to the installation.
Yeah, I'll do the installation. Orlando, I think your question is great, but if you don't mind, maybe we can answer it later in the Q&A because I think it's more specific to a use case. So yeah, before we jump into that, let me share my screen again so I can show this part. So again, if you're in Marketing Cloud and here when you hover over the App Exchange, you don't see the select segment. That's normal because we first need to install the package. Let me say first that in order to install the package, you need to be an admin user in your Marketing Cloud environment. So if you're not an admin, you might want to ping your admin colleagues to support you with this. If you click on the App Exchange, you will be redirected to the overall or the main screen of the App Exchange, right? When there are a lot of partners. But here you can look for DESelect Segment. I'm just going to do that. And you will see all the other DESelect packages appear as well. But if we click DESelect Segment, you'll have the option to get it now. As soon as you do this, as soon as you click on Get It Now, it will ask you to log in if you're not logged in, and it will redirect you to your organization where you will see the install package that will be installed as part of the setup of DESelect Segment. And once you click on Install, you will be able to control the access of the different users to it. So there was a question in the chat about I installed the package, but I cannot see it. So let me show you why can that be. If we go to setup, this is the page where you will be redirected, by the way. So here, if you go to the install packages section, so apps, install packages, here you will see the ones that you already have. In your case, Orlando, that you install it, you might find it here. If you're just installing it, don't worry, you don't need to get here. Salesforce will take you here when you click on Get It Now. And when you click on one of the packages, you will be able to control who has access to it. As Anthony was saying, the free edition only allows for 3 users. So you might want to control who has access so you can test it out first before rolling it out for the rest of the users. Okay, here again, it's a demo environment, so we have a lot of stuff. But if you open one of the packages here, this is where you will be redirected. And if you go to the Access tab, here you can control who is licensed. As you can see, we have all current and future users licensed. But if it could happen that in your case, you see a list of business units here, and you will have to enable users manually. Once you do that, that user will probably need to refresh the page. You don't need to log out and log in. You just need to refresh the page. And after that, you will be able to see DESelect Segment here in the dropdown of the App Exchange.
Great. And Edu, can you maybe also shed some light on how people can get help, just in case they do get stuck after this call, or for anyone watching this recording later?
That's a great question. So you can always reach out to DESelect using our email. So support@deselect.com. Send an email there, and you will get support as soon as possible. Also, when you're inside the app, when you're inside DESelect Segment, you will have some content that can help you out. So from here, you will have access to our support portal, where we have tons of articles about a lot of use cases and also most common issues that you might have. So here on the on the right panel, you will be able to access the resource center, where you can share your feedback. You can become an expert, so you can train yourself on DESelect Segment, and you can also stay up to date with the latest announcements. And yeah, as I've said, if you need any help, support@deselect.com. That's the place to go.
That's great. And if it wasn't clear yet, so the support also extends to all our free users. It's not limited to those who have a paid plan.
Indeed.
Awesome. So I'm curious if anyone else is also like trying installation. If so, give us like a little shout or a thumbs up in the chat. Love to hear how that's going for you. Meanwhile, now is maybe a good time to look at Orlando's earlier question. So Orlando earlier was asking, is it common or best practice to join with child objects, for instance, opportunities or order line items? So Orlando, if it's best practice, I would say it depends. It always goes back to what do you want to communicate about, what do you want to do. But if it's common, yeah, absolutely. And I think arguably, yes, it is a best practice because these days customers respond so much better to personalization. It's like very competitive out there in terms of digital marketing. Just look at your own personal inbox. I think only today already I got 100 emails. So to vie for attention, having the best targeting and the best personalization goes a long way. This is why customers so frequently do want to join their data, for instance, from child objects like opportunity, like order line items, and especially in Salesforce Marketing Cloud, where you have such a great freedom in how you want to define your data model, meaning you can create any data extension you want. And then the vast majority of customers, they will connect it to something like Service Cloud or Sales Cloud, or maybe they're even using another quote unquote third party product, like maybe they're using Microsoft Dynamics, maybe they're having a data lake like Snowflake, but they'll typically bring in multiple data extensions that have some relation to each other. So yes, then joining that data is really, really key. Cool. So I think we've covered everything. Anything that's still top of mind for you, Edu? We can always stick around for another 5 minutes. For those who want to try, we can make ourselves available, be your live support agent.
Yeah, indeed. If you're trying to install right now and if you have any issue or question, now is the time. I was here in the call, so happy to help. Or
Great.
based on the demo we've done, I know it was a quick demo, but if you have any questions, you can also ask now.
Excellent. Then we will end the official webinar now. So I want to thank you for your attention. But we'll stick around. We'll stick around for maybe another 5, 10 minutes, see if anyone has questions. And if so, we'll be more than happy to answer them.